on the topic of relocation and the whole visa process when somebody wants to move to Germany. And because I'm not an expert in this area, I did invite an expert, which is Tal Gibbesch. I'm so excited to have her here. She will share all her expertise because she's also the CEO of Gibbesch Consulting, which is a company focused on helping people relocate successfully and very smoothly to Germany. Super happy to start this podcast. Welcome, Tal.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I
Very
hope you're
exciting.
I hope you're ready for all the questions I have prepared and I hope the excitement stays.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. So, let me start right away with a rather interesting question that I didn't think about before, but when we were talking in preparation to this podcast, you brought it up, which is how far in advance should someone start preparing for their relocation to Germany?
Okay. According to my experience, it's very important to start preparing between 9 to 12 months before the move. It depends also if it's a family or individual, one individual or a couple, if you have pets, if you have children. So I think overall, the ideal preparation time would be 9 to 12 months before your move date or your estimated move date. Maybe should I say that? Because we also discuss what is the ideal move date.
That is so interesting. I never thought that the period is so long. I mean, in retrospective, after you go through the whole process, it makes sense. But when you are in the process of just thinking about it, I would have never thought it's going to be that long. So maybe just out of curiosity, why do you think it's so important to start that early?
Well, there are many stuff that you have to do before you move to a new country. You have to know the mentality, you have to know how the systems work. You have to know about the education system or how to apply to certain schools. If you want this school or another, if you want to learn German or not, if you want to, how do you look for a job? All these things basically sum up to a moment that you have to decide also when do you move. And a lot of people think, hey, no problem, I will move in August because the school year starts in August. No.
Hmm.
So all these things have to be prepared in advance, and also there's a lot of information to digest. And we start, for example, with 2 3 online meetings, long online meetings, and until you digest all the information, until you make the decisions, it takes time. And also you have to understand what tasks do you face before you move and when to do them. So this is something that you have to be prepared for.
I think that's so interesting because it changes a little bit the perspective of things. Like in this ideal world, we're like, I want to, start working in Germany. Let's go. Let's start this. But then you start like trying to figure out what you have to do, and it gets overwhelming very fast. And I think this is a very good approach of being more like, this is a strategic thing that we can plan ahead, and that when we plan it ahead, it will make it so much easier because relocating is complicated enough. So let's make the process so structured that we feel like we are moving step by step in the right direction. And I think that is awesome.
Definitely, because you have to be prepared. And just to come to Germany, hey, I can do everything, no problem. This is, well, it's possible, but it kind of like make things a little bit harder. And
Mm.
that's a little bit understatement. And with the process of preparing before, then we're able to schedule appointments that are needed to make it all, so you can make everything very smoothly and go through the process as soon as possible.
And now you just brought up another question, which really is, I mean, you were already mentioned some of the things, but now I'm very curious to get more in detail. Like, what are the things that you need to prepare when you want to make like this relocation to make the process smoother?
Okay, so first of all, I would say tie all loose ends, which
Mhm.
means payments or contact people that would act on your behalf. Make sure that all the payments are in order, what you need to cancel, what you need to put on hold. all the documents that you need to bring. What are the documents? Also, in the future, if someone comes to work in Germany, would they need citizenship? What documents do you need for German citizenship? And right now it's a little bit rocky in this area, but yes, we also provide this vision, and it's really important to be prepared for this. And of course, to know the systems, which is extremely important. And so I can sum it up basically with research, research, research,
Hmm.
and not only rely on what the internet says, because social media, they give different, you can get different information if you Google or anything else. So you have to make sure that all the information that you have is correct and
Mm.
updated. And this is, I mean, this is a really big challenge for people, but these are the things that most important to know. So yeah, research and all the rest.
Mm. I found it very interesting that the first thing you
Mm.
said was really to look in your current country, so to say. So the first things you need to do is analyze the current situation. What do I need to take care of here while I'm still here and I can manage those things? Also implications like, if I want to move in September, when do I have to quit my current job if I'm planning to, start over there? So all these little things starting at your current location, I think that's very interesting because the first thing I would have thought, if I'm thinking about a relocation, the only thing about what do I have to do for that other country, So I think that was also a good perspective to start here and then you start moving towards Germany
True.
in this
And
case.
I can give you another perspective, because a lot of countries are right now, I would call it unstable
Mm-hmm.
politically. So some things you can take out now before you move, and maybe you wouldn't be able to after you move to Germany. Maybe these documents or these action you wouldn't be able to execute after you move to Germany, because
Right.
you know when it's not stable, so you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Right. Also, a very important perspective that one wouldn't think of at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really great tips already. And talking about tips, what do you think are some of the most common mistakes that people do when they are preparing for this relocation?
Well, the main thing, I think people say, I can just come there and I can find work, I can find apartment, housing is the main issue. So, no problem, I can manage, everything is going to be fine. This is, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that someone can do.
Mm,
Just say, yeah, everything's going to be fine, I'm not worried. I'm not saying you should be extremely worried, but definitely you have to make sure that your future is, you know, secured.
right.
Another mistake that people do, that they choose the wrong visa or residence permit, and then or they don't know exactly what to do with the visa or residence permit that they choose. So things get misorganized, they have misinformation, they had, something that holds them back, and when they arrive to Germany or they start the process before for the visa in their home country, so that is a little bit, it turns out to be a mistake because I didn't know how to prepare. I didn't know that I can do this.
Mm,
So you need also to know what visa or residence permit to acquire. And another mistake that people do from countries that don't need visa,
mhm.
but they just need residence permit and you can apply within Germany, they overstay and
Mm,
say no problem, or they wait for the last moment.
right.
And I'm gonna be run out of my. I get a lot of. I'm gonna run out of my 90 days soon. 10 days. I have 10 more days.
Oh my
Or
God.
I went in and out with my two passports.
Mm,
Wouldn't they notice this? They might.
yeah,
So that's a
right.
big mistake. Mostly when you have two passports, so you go in and out from
Mm.
Germany or Schengen area. And then they ask you to specify what are your entrance and exit dates. And that turns out to be huge mistake. Huge.
Oh, yeah, makes
Yep.
total sense. Yeah, now that you say it is so obvious, but I can imagine people in the moment being like, let me find a creative way around these things, and there's no creative way around these things.
True.
So, yeah, very interesting. I really think what you said can also be transferred so much into the job search process itself, because many times we also get like questions from people that are not in Germany yet, like, oh, what are my chances of, finding a job in Germany? And I always tell them, similar to what you said, is like the first step is you need to do research, like go into, job portals, try to find jobs that fit your profile. Are there many available? Are there the ones where you fit or not? Like, what is the situation? And it's very important to also do that research step before you come, because then you have the right expectations. For example, now that you know that, let's say, there's not so many jobs, the process might take longer than you think, so you need to have financing for that time. And that is why I think it comes back to what you said, like this process of preparation being a longer process. That is exactly what it should be, so that you come with the right expectations, with everything you need, and then this process becomes smoother in the long run. So I think a lot of mistakes that you mentioned are so important also to be applied in the area of job searching. So thank you so much for sharing. This is going to be super helpful for so many people. But you already said something about visa, and I already hear all the people listening to this be like, ask her about the visas. What options are there? How do I choose the right visa for myself? So maybe you can give us some insights on this.
Well, I think there are many options to cover, but let's talk about the common ones. So, first and foremost, of course, work visa or blue card visa, EU blue card visa. So, that is, of course, the preferred way to come, or either to come to Germany or to come here and find a company that would sponsor you for this visa. They're different. Both of them, yes, work visas, but they are very different. Blue card, for example, requires academic degree. It requires certain level of annual salary and other things. And work visa is basically, blue card is for 4 years usually, and work visa is very limited to the contract period. So then it's very limited.
Mm.
You can only work for this company, and if you get fired, so you have to find another one. And on that point, you need someone to sponsor you. You need a company to sponsor you. And a lot of people say, okay, I got accepted to a workplace, and they said, no problem, take a letter that we take you, there's a job offer, here's a letter from us. Usually they have to prove why you're better than any person
Mm.
that has European citizenship or speak German.
All right.
So these are something, this is really important. But when company says, have the letter, these are the forms, no problem, do it yourself. So in certain states, Bundesstates, that's definitely possible. In most states, it's impossible to do this alone. So
Mm-hmm.
either the company has to do it for you, or that a relocation immigration consultant can be a solution for the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for the work blue card. Another one that is very, very common is family reunification. It
Mm-hmm.
can be with either German citizen or more general EU citizen. And then you get, depends. In Germany, when you're married to a German citizen, you can get up to 3 years. Usually it's
Mm-hmm.
3 years or 2 years, but usually 3 years. And for European citizen, you can get 5 years.
Mm.
However, family reunification visa is not possible with all visas. If you go for a freelancer visa, which is also a common visa,
Mm-hmm.
um, then it might not be that secure that you can bring your family on a freelancer
Mm.
visa. But student visa, which is also popular, then you can bring your family
Well,
after you
interesting.
receive your visa. A student visa, by the way, in Germany, it doesn't have to be to a German speaking university or higher
Mm-hmm.
education or vocational training. It can be also for English speaking
Super.
program universities, as long as they are state recognized,
Mm-hmm.
which means that even though their degree can be American or Canadian or French, whatever, but they are state recognized in order to give you the visa, the sponsorship for the visa.
Mm.
So as said, family can be different times. For a freelancer visa, it might be between 2 years to 3 years,
Mhm.
and it's not self-employed visa. For
Mhm.
a freelancer visa, you need letters of intent. You need to prove your potential of income in Germany and your contribution to the German economy. But it's pretty loose and easier than self-employed. For self-employed visa, which in other countries they don't really have this difference, but in Germany they're really different. Definitely in the visa perspective, because for self-employed you have to present business plan,
Mhm.
and you have to show that you're going to hire locals for your
Oh,
business, that you
okay.
have funding for your business, and it's really really complicated. So I definitely don't recommend this for
Right.
self-employed.
Yeah. Mhm.
But definitely, student visa, work visas, family reunification, and freelancer, these are the most common visas and residence permits. And of
And
course, we have the Chansekarte right now.
right. Mhm.
Yes. So the Chansekarte is kind of, obviously it's a new process until the immigration offices and the embassies um, were used to the process, recognized the process. It took some time, but they managed
Mhm.
to get there. They're still on their way. Schatzkarte you can also issue in Germany,
Mhm.
but for citizens of countries that cannot enter Germany without a visa, so Schatzkarte is a good visa. The problem is for 1 year. You can work in the meantime, but only in part-time jobs.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if you want to apply in the meantime for full time, you have to make sure that you have sponsorship of the company that you want to work at. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit more complicated. It's a good situation. They have it's a good visa. They have point system, but if you can choose another visa or residence permit, please do.
Mhm. And in comparison to the job seeker visa, because I know like a lot of people ask us like, oh, what the Chancenkarte, the job seeker visa, which one should I choose if I want to go that path of coming first and then finding a job? Do you have a specific opinion on that or?
Well, job seeking visa is only for 6 months.
Mhm.
And certain the states have different rules for this, different requirements. But job seeking visa is only for 6 months. You have to show that you have money to sustain yourself. In the meantime, which in Chansekate you might have less
Mhm.
money required. Job seeking visa appointments, and that's actually maybe we should bring that up a little bit, the
Yeah.
appointment time, because for certain visas or in specific countries, the process for the visa before entering Germany takes a long time. For
Mhm.
example, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Philippines, it might take a long, long time. So you have to prepare everything even a year in advance.
Mhm.
But also, if you come to Germany, for example, I had an American citizen who came with a master's degree, and he came to Germany and he decided on a job seeker visa,
Mhm.
only to get him an appointment. That was a few years ago. Only to get him an appointment took about 3 4 months,
Oh.
and that's in Berlin, and they're pretty fast in Berlin.
All right.
Um, they're pretty fast. For example, if you're going for other Bundesstates, so it might be different, but the
Mhm.
amount of time that it takes to actually get an appointment, and they're making it harder and harder on
Mhm.
people, even though the government says yes, we welcome immigrants.
Right. And we
Um,
need a lot of skilled workers, which is a
true,
fact, but still a
true.
reality.
For a work visa in Stuttgart, for example,
Yeah.
they have a fast track. Only one person works on the fast track in Stuttgart. So
Yeah.
it takes at least 6 months, at least, in Stuttgart to be noticed.
Yeah.
So
Calling
this
that
means that,
fast track shouldn't be like legal.
true,
Like
true. But in Berlin, for example, it takes in average 1 month for the
okay.
process to end.
And I think this is another very important information in regards to the preparation. Also, like where are you looking for jobs, like which is the city you want to go to. Also thinking about all these processes later on can make such a big difference. So thank you for bringing this important topic up. I actually, my next question kind of goes in hand with many of the things you've already said, but maybe we didn't mention something specific, which is, what do you think are some misconceptions of the visa process here in Germany?
Well, I think the biggest misconception, well, there are a few, but one of them is for preferred countries like
Mhm.
Canada, US, South Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, even the UK, Serbia, Montenegro, and there are others. If you're coming from these countries, you don't have to do the visa
Mhm.
process in the embassy before you arrive to Germany. And a lot of people saying, "Well, I want to be secure. I want to make sure that everything is fine." The misconception here is that they think that they have to go through the process only in the embassy.
Mhm.
But no, unless it's something like Chansekarte or language visa that are only for 1 year, the rest of the visas actually have to be, you have to reapply
Mhm.
in Germany again. So it doesn't
Okay.
save immigration office in Germany and the whole process in Germany in most visas. So if you're from a preferred country, better to come to Germany and apply for a residence permit instead of going through the whole process in the embassy before and then reapply in Germany.
Mhm. Okay,
So
interesting.
yes, this is a big misconception that people, I'm going to be secure, no problem. Yeah, you would have to do the process again.
No way
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Okay, interesting. Very good to know.
Another misconception, I would say that my friends managed to do this, so I shouldn't have a problem. And I get it a lot. Well, my
Mhm.
friends didn't have a problem. In Germany, you have specific rules, and not all visas are the same for everyone. Not everyone has the same case. I can give you really recent example of an American I talked to a few days yesterday actually. I
Mhm.
talked to him, and well, luckily he started the conversation with, "I have a criminal record in the
Mhm.
U.S." Now I asked, "Okay, what is the offense?" And it's some kind of a sexual
Oh.
offense. And then I said, "Well, there in the residence permit form, you have to say that you have a criminal record." And then he told me, "Yeah, but my friends moved to Germany and they didn't have a problem."
Mhm.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure, I hope that they didn't have the
Yeah.
same criminal record as you, but that's really common misconception. My
Right.
friends did it in this way, so I can do it the same way, because even if we're not the same. So I get this a lot, and every time I explain, each individual has um, different requirements and different case, different
Right.
history. So you have to consider all of this when you apply to the visa or residence permit that you require.
Yeah, maybe just to add there, I know you have more to mention, but it's practically the same with job searching, and I reference back to that because so many people also ask me like, how long does it take? My friend found in like, I don't know, 2 months, and I'm like, well, what experience did your friend have? What jobs were they looking for? How flexible are they with the type of company? Because all that matters, and all that defines how long or how short it will take you to find a job. So there is not like one fits all solution, nor in the visa, nor in the job search process. So,
Yeah,
yeah, very good to mention that.
it's also the same, with kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
My friends found a kita spot. The kita is kindergarten. They found the kita spot really, really, really fast. And yeah, it's not the same. Your friends, they needed something specific, so they found it. They were lucky, maybe. They used the kita search service. Might be a lot of options, but for example, if your friends move to a small village in Hessen, so it might not be the same when you move to Hamburg
Right.
or Munich. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to, if your friends found it, so it's something different. Or So kitas and schools, our friends found really, really fast. It's not the same for each case.
Yeah.
So this is also something that is really common that I hear.
Mhm. Mhm. So it's not like you should not talk to others and learn from their experience, but rather see it as like different perspective of how it could go, learn from what they did, maybe mistakes they did on the way, and like try to get some information, but not use them as a reference point of how it will be for you. And I think that's very important. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Well, now we talked about challenges, good things, and bad things about the visa process and the length of it. But now I really want to take a little bit of look into how it can work and how we can facilitate this process. And that's where I want to really talk a little bit about your services, because I think this is going to be so helpful for people who are in that process. And just to really understand how it works, maybe you can give us some examples of, some challenges that some of your clients had and how you help them go through those.
Okay. So our relocation prep service is concentrated is a process,
Mhm.
which means that we start when individual or family decide that they are ready for this big move. And we start the process when they're still in their home country. And we're talking also about bureaucracy that they have to go through in the home country, also about preparing them for the mentality and challenges in Germany that sometimes they're not aware. Sometimes they are aware and they're really afraid because people tell them that it's impossible. Because people usually talk from their experiences, and then they make it like they generalize for everything.
Mhm.
Everything is horrible, everything is impossible, ta da 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 da. So I get that, but our job in this service is to calm people down and find solutions. So yes, we give also, deadlines, tasks. You have a system for a list of tasks and due dates. When do you have to do A? When do you have to do B? And how to prepare. We have regular calls with people, and then you have a lot of panic attacks.
Mhm.
So we have to handle those as well.
Yeah.
Make sure, that we know what we're talking about and how others dealt with the situation. But I think the biggest challenges that we have are mostly with housing.
Mhm. Yeah, I imagine.
That, of course, most of the people say, "Yeah, it's impossible to find housing in big cities, mostly."
Mhm.
So one of the solutions that we give, we have obviously home search service, um, active home search for people, but we also guide them in general how to find an apartment, which start with short-term apartment,
Mhm.
for example. And then you have an apartment for 3 to 12 months. You can find work in the meantime, a job. You can have credit history, financial history in Germany. So you can find in the long run something that is unlimited after all. But also know the neighborhood. If you're going to a city, Frankfurt,
Mhm.
so you heard that this neighborhood is amazing. And we talk about neighborhoods, right? We talk about neighborhoods in each city. It doesn't matter if it's Hamburg or Berlin or Frankfurt or Munich, but we talk about neighborhoods. And you thought, yeah, I'm going to like this apartment. I'm going to like this neighborhood very much. It's very friendly. It's cool. They have bars, they have cafes. Everything is great. And then you arrive, let's say you manage by, I don't know, some kind of way to get a long term apartment. Until you manage, you walk through all this way, and then you found out that the neighborhood is not very friendly, as
Mhm.
people say. Or, so this is a chance for you. The short term apartment is actually a
Right.
solution to actually find out if you want to live there.
Mhm.
So this is something that is very, very important. Of course, people come also for a relocation tour. Before they move, they actually explore the different neighborhoods. We also do this tour and we explain about the different neighborhoods. We give them general guidance about the housing, what the terms are, how to find an apartment, what website to use, how to prepare the application. So these are very important details that they have to know before, and we kind of like make them live when we do the relocation tour. So this is something that is really helpful.
Nice.
Another language is, of course, to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
So we do whatever we can. I have background in HR, so I help with, in general, to explain about the industries here,
Perfect.
and how to write CVs. But usually when it's specific cases, or even not specific cases, we say, hey, we have Laura, she's a professional. Go to her, because sometimes in some industries it's
Yeah.
very, very important that you have the right CV for your industry. And our job is also to refer to other professionals that is not our expertise, but this is I see it as professional responsibility
Yeah.
to actually refer to the right people also as part of the service. And the fact that we know these professionals and we know how they operate, so we can actually support
Mm-hmm.
our clients and then help them go through the way. But yeah, this is the main challenge. But they also, the job search starts from the home country, but also continues in here.
Yeah.
We also have a network of former clients that actually already sold in their own companies. We usually do it for high tech or industry or startups. So then we refer them internally there.
Super.
And the third big challenge is, I would say, the language
Mm-hmm.
barrier. And then the question asks, should I learn German before I come to Germany? Um, there are a few answers to that. Because, if it's family, so should the children learn German, the adults, and usually the adults kind of like, they say, well, learning the language is really difficult, the children wouldn't know, and children learn much faster the
Right.
language than the
Yeah.
adults. The fears of the adults kind of like, relate to the others. So this
Yeah.
is a really common challenge that we face. And different cases, different solutions. Because for some, if you work in high tech, for example, no need to learn German before, because, as obviously
Yeah.
and, and everybody that actually deals with high tech industry or startups, then they know English is the main language that they
Mm-hmm.
use. There are other specific high tech companies that are very German,
You're right.
and then they don't even care if you're the best developer in the world, but you don't speak German, you don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, I would say, okay, this is very specific industry of the high tech. So then, yes, you should learn German even to know like until the A2 level. So they would be willing to actually talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
For children, it depends on what school or what kita the parents want the kids to go to.
Right.
Because if it's a public one or private but German, then sometimes if they're young children, no need.
Mm-hmm.
If they're older, with the school system in Germany, they might not have something that's called welcome class, Willkommen Klasse. And
Mm.
then the children have to do this themselves.
Okay.
So would have to learn by themselves, and to like just throw the child into a regular class, that would be challenging and more frustrating for the
Mhm.
children, and therefore for the parents.
Right.
So it very depends if to learn the language before, and again depends on each each case.
Yeah. Which is what we said before, right? It's not like everything applies to everyone, but it depends
True,
on the case.
true,
But I really loved everything you mentioned. And I'm a big fan of your services, first of all, of how holistic they are, because they really cover everything. And like, if I would be going through the process, the feeling you gave me now was just like, I'm going to be covered on everything I need. And I think that is such a good feeling for someone going through such a big step in their life. So I will make sure to leave all important links in the show notes. So everyone who is thinking about it or in the process having difficulties, make sure to check out the link, get in touch with Tal. She's the expert, and she will help you. And with the right service, we'll be able to really get you there. So I think that was really nice. And the second part, why I really love what you just mentioned, is because you could really see your passion for this topic that goes beyond just providing a service. You're really doing it because you care about the person behind, and I think that simply shows of the quality of your service. So I'm a big fan, making sure to leave all the links. And now I have one final question. I don't even know if you have an answer for it because I feel you've already shared so much, but I will ask it anyway. What would be one piece of advice you would give to someone preparing for their relocation to Germany? Maybe something they're not thinking about right now.
I would say, except obviously for use a professional consultant that helps you with the whole process. Make sure that you're doing your research right in the way that you're not dependent on someone else after you move to the country, because sometimes if you move with a company, for example, so the relocation service, they do everything for you. They find you an apartment, they find you a kita spot, they find you everything. And then after that you're like, okay, now what do I do? I
Mm,
need to do registration. I found another apartment. What do I do now? The kita is not good. What do I do now? How do I? A lot of things that you don't cover before. So you have to be aware. There are things that you would have to act independently, and you need to be prepared for this, which is advantage of the service that we actually give, because we teach them to fish
mm-hmm.
as well, because the first arrangements we do, that we schedule bank appointments and registration and everything, but you need to give a person the feeling that they're not alone
Yeah,
and they have someone to turn to, but they have to also be independent and not to be helpless, which I find is the worst feeling that one can have.
yeah,
But other than that, I would say don't miss, make sure that you know, at least for the near future, what your plans are and prepare accordingly. Try to make sure that you didn't miss any crucial steps. Um, for example, to let some authorities or companies know that you're moving.
mm-hmm.
And there are many aspects for that. It's really, complex. But in general, just to make sure that you know your steps and you don't miss. And if you do miss something, that you know how to fix it from
Right.
Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Not
But
always that easy. So that's my, I think, piece of advice
I
for this.
love that. I really, really love that. And I think that was a great way to end this very insightful podcast that maybe you need to listen twice just to make sure you get in all that information. But thank you so much, Tal. It was a pleasure having you here. I'm sure we're going to have a further conversation in the future. But for now, have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for everything you
You
shared.
too. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Mhm. I'm stopping now. We need to wait 1 second so everything can upload. How do you feel? You did amazing.
Thank you. It was, it was very nice and kind of like go with the flow.